Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Becky Benkert, and I'm an instructional designer here in the Learning Technologies office. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about communication strategies and some tools that you can use to communicate with your students through Blackboard. And then we've got a bonus tool at the end. Just a notification that this webinar is being recorded, and the resources will be made available to you later. One thing I'd like everybody to do, it looks like I have most of your names, but if in the chat window, which is the lower right-hand corner, there's a little, looks like a speech bubble. If you could click on that and then type your first and last name in the chat window. So I'll go ahead and do that so you can see where it is. Okay, just so that we can take attendance and record who is attending. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video, just kind of save some bandwidth, and then we'll go through the slides here. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, or if you're using a headset and microphone, I'll be happy to answer the questions as we go. I'll turn off the video here. Okay, so we're going to talk about communicating with students, and it's important to communicate, especially during this time as everything is just so crazy. We know that being consistent and predictable with communication from one source can help prevent confusion for students. So if you can send out most of your communication through Blackboard, either using announcements or using email, this can be really helpful for students to let them know what's going on. And again, the tools we're going to talk about are Blackboard's announcements, email, and then there's another tool called Quickly that we're going to take a look at as well that'll make emailing and sending announcements to students in more than one section of your class much easier. So Blackboard announcements, why would you want to use these? Announcements are really good for sending timely information, reminders about things coming up in the class, notifying students about any changes to the course. So for example, you could say, I found this really great timely webinar, I found this great video that I want you all to watch, and I posted it to the Unit 1 folder in Blackboard. So just new things that are in the class, things you would announce in the classroom. You can use Blackboard's announcements tool for. So I'm going to show you, kind of walk you through how it works. It's probably not particularly easy to follow along with me as you're in Collaborate, but again, we'll be making this recording available as a video so you can watch it later, and then you can kind of follow along in the steps and go back and forth. So the first thing we're going to talk about is steps to post an announcement. And something to know about announcements and email, you can only send these to students in one section of your class. So for example, say you have English 1101 that you teach on Monday and Wednesday, and you've got an English 1101 that you teach on Tuesday and Thursday. So sending an announcement this way, you're only going to be sending it to your, for example, Monday and Wednesday class or Tuesday and Thursday class. If you've got the same announcement you want to send to all your students, we'll show you that. That's the Quickly tool. We'll show you that a little bit later on. So click on when you're logged into Blackboard and you navigate to your course, you're going to click on Announcements on the course menu. And this is usually the first page that you'll see when you log into Blackboard, and the page that the students see as well. And you'll click on Create Announcement. And then it's very similar to how you would send an email. You'll enter a subject for your message, and you'll enter your message. So for example, it's pretty much the example I gave. A new video was added to Unit 1, and then I send a little note. Hi class, I added the video to Unit 1 related to our topic. Be sure to check it out. And then one feature I think is really nice with the announcements, normally students would only get the announcement when they log into Blackboard and take a look at your class. But with this feature, you can have Blackboard send an email of the announcement to students. So they're going to get it. A lot of them, I think, have the email set up on their phone. So they'll get a notification right away that you've made a new announcement in the course. So it's just kind of another touch point with the students, another way to keep them engaged. So make sure that when you are setting up an announcement, check this send a copy of this announcement box to make sure they're really going to see it, or we hope they'll really see it. And then the next step is just click submit to submit the announcement, and it gets sent out, posted in your class in Blackboard and sent out to students. And here's what it looks like. So, and it looks pretty similar for you and the student. When you log in for announcements, you'll see the new announcements are there. And Blackboard keeps all of the announcements, so you get a record on that page. The announcements page, you'll have all your announcements listed there. And you'll see them as you go. Or you see all of them in the class that you've posted. Are there any questions about announcements that you wanted to ask? And again, you can type questions in the chat or use your microphone and use your microphone if you want to verbally ask a question. Okay. I don't see that anybody's typing, so we'll go ahead and move on. So next we have email. So email in Blackboard is really handy. You can email your students directly from your course in Blackboard. And the really nice thing about it is you don't have to know their email address. It's already in your course in Blackboard. So this tool can, so you don't have to look it up if you're using your Outlook. You can just send it from Blackboard. And with this tool, you can only email students again in one section of your class. So here's the steps to send an email. In your courses control panel, so this is below your course menu. So you have links for like the syllabus, and maybe you've got course units. So in this is at the bottom, it's a control panel. You'll click on course tools, and then you'll click on send email. And some people also have this right on their course menu that there's a send email link. But if not, it's under course tools and send email. And you'll need to decide who you want to send the email to. You can either send it to all users, which is all the students enrolled in that section of the class. And if you're co-instructing with anybody, it'll send it to those co-instructors as well. You can select all student users, which is everybody enrolled in this section of the class. Or you can send it to single or select users, so you can select individuals. So say I want to send an email to just one student or a couple of students, I can select their names and email them. So if you did select to email individual users, you'll have one additional step. So you'll get information that it's a list of everybody enrolled in the class, and it's available to select. You'll click, and I'm going to kind of draw on the screen here too. You'll first click it's my terrible arrow there, the names of people that you want to, you'll select the names of people that you want to email, and then you'll click on the arrow, the right-facing arrow, to move them over into selected. So then on the left, you'll have the names of students you can choose from, and on the right are the students that you've chosen. I had somebody trying this out the other day and they weren't able to use the arrows. We found out it's because they were using Internet Explorer. So make sure when you're using Blackboard, you're using either Chrome or Firefox, just something I didn't mention at the beginning, but that's something you want to make sure that you do. Okay, so then whether you've chosen individual users or you're emailing everybody, your next step is going to be entering a subject. So it's just like emailing from your Outlook. You'll enter the subject and then enter the body of your message or enter the email, type out the email. And I always recommend checking the return receipt box. It's not a read receipt, so it's different than that. But the return receipt is when you send the email, you're going to get a copy of it, and then you'll see a list of everybody that you emailed. So everybody's name is going to be in there. One way that email differs from announcements is you can attach a file in an email. So just as you would from your COD email, from your Outlook email, you can send an attachment to your students, where you can't do that in an announcement. So you can send that here. And then the next step is just click on submit. So you'll send your email. And we'll jump back here. When you send your email, your students are going to get it in their student email account, which is at dupage.edu. You'll hear their, that's the email extension. And you'll get a copy in your Outlook email, your COD email account. When the students respond, you won't get the email in Blackboard, and you won't be able to see what you sent from Blackboard. It all shows up in your Outlook, so in your COD email. So Blackboard is just the tool to send the email, but you won't receive or be able to check any of the email in Blackboard. Does anybody have any questions about email before we move on? Yes, there's a question, is there a way to send an announcement to all my classes? And we're going to take a look at that next. You can send announcements and emails both to all your classes. So are there any other questions about email? Good. Okay. Move on here. So the next tool we're going to talk about is the way to email, or I didn't put this on the slide, but also send an announcement to all your students at once. And it's a tool called Quickly. You'll get to it a little bit differently than you will either the announcement or the email tool in Blackboard. You get to it from the My Institution page, which is the first page that you'll log into, that you'll access when you log into Blackboard. So log into Blackboard and you'll see you'll see a link for Quickly. And if you've used Quickly Attendance, this is a different tool. If you haven't used Quickly Attendance, don't worry about it, but this is a different tool. So on the My Institution or the homepage when you log into Blackboard, you'll see a link for Quickly. So you'll want to click on the Quickly module and then click on either, and I'm going to go through the steps and then I've got a screenshot on the next page here. So click on post an announcement or send an email to whatever you want to do, whichever you want to do. And then you'll select your courses, compose your message, and then again, you can email your students the same as you would when you're sending an announcement. In an individual section, you can email all your students and then you're going to submit. So let me show you the screenshot of that. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see a list of all your classes, and you'll just select the little checkbox, or there's a little radio button. You can select individual sections. So all the sections that you want to either send the announcement to or send the email to, you select those. And then it's pretty similar, just like posting an announcement or sending an email from within an individual section. You'll enter your subject, you'll enter your message, and then don't forget to check that email announcement checkbox. So it'll not only show up in Blackboard, but it'll email students immediately, and then click on submit. So that's the way that if you're want to email students in more than one section of a course. You can email students if you're teaching English 1101 and English 1102, it doesn't matter if it's different sections or different courses, you can email all your students at once. Are there questions, excuse me, are there questions about using Quickly? Sure, asked to show it again, so let me show you the steps again here. So you're going to go to Quickly from the My Institution page and then click, and let me actually bring up, I can bring up Blackboard here if you give me just a second. Okay. So can you see my Blackboard screen right now? Yes, you can see it. Okay, good. So this is, let me log out. I'll show you where it is here. So this is when you just go to the Blackboard page, and then I'm going to log in. We'll give it a second. And the My Institution page should be the page that you're on when you first log in. And I'm going to try to scroll slowly here because I know it can be a little off-putting to watch this in a webinar. So on my screen, it's sort of towards the lower right-hand corner. There's a link, or there's the Quickly tool. These boxes, they call them modules in Blackboard, can be moved around on your homepage, on your My Institution page. So it might not be in the same place on your My Institution page. So look for this, and it's spelled, it's the company's name, so it's spelled QWICKLY. I'm going to hop back over to Claybright here. Were you able to find that? Oh, it looks like I got a couple questions here. Okay, good. Okay. So then I can actually just show this here. So we can post an announcement. And my courses are going to look a little funny because they're all development ones. They're all just practice ones, not real courses. But I can select multiple sections. So say these are all my different classes. I can select them. I can type a subject, new course material, look for and then I'll check email announcement again, so the students are going to get the announcement right away, and then I won't actually do it because I don't want to send it to people, but click on submit. And then sending an email is the same way. Click on send email and select your classes you want to send it to, and then email your subject, or enter your subject and enter your message. And then this, just like sending an email from within an individual section, you have the option to include an attachment. So I could browse my computer and attach a file if I wanted to send that. And then I would click on submit to email all the students. I'll go ahead and cancel out of that. Okay, you're welcome. And then let me back here. So I'm going to stop sharing Blackboard, and I'm going to go back to our slides here. And let me get to the one we're on. Just a second. Okay, were there any other questions about Quickly before we go on here? I think we're good. Okay. So the next tool I'm going to talk about just briefly. I'm not going to go through it step by step because it's not one of the tools in Blackboard. It's called the Remind app. It's another tool you can use with your students. So you can essentially you can text your students and send them information, but they're not going to see your email, or I'm sorry, your phone number. So you can use this Remind app in order to send short messages to students. And let me show you some of the benefits of that here. So one of the nice things is because they're getting a text message and anything you want to send them, they're not using up a lot of data on their phone. And we know this might be increasingly become a problem if students are not using a computer, for example, to access their materials on their course. If they're using their data plan, can really use up a lot of data. So sending them something by text message is going to save that for them. They can also download the Remind app and get push notifications on their phone so that they can stay connected to the class. You can send photos, files, even little voice clips, little voice recordings to your students through the Remind app. You can, just like with Quickly, you can send messages to multiple classes at once. You can use Remind to hold virtual office hours, just like if you went to training on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, you could do office hours that way. And then if another instructor had to take over the section of the class, if you were ill, for example, you could transfer that over to another instructor. And again, we're not going to go through this one as detailed, but I'll show you next. So we've got some links in here, and they're going to be available in the recording. So they'll be available to you. So there's some of the items about learning more about Remind. So what you'll be doing is you'll be setting up a session, or setting up for your individual class. You'll create a class, and then you're going to share a link with students so they can decide to join this Remind app if they want to. And then the other links here are to send an announcement, to send photos and files and voice clips, the things we talked about, and office hours. There's also a link to show you what it looks like for students. So again, I just kind of wanted to make you aware of this tool. It's Remind, or remind.com, in order to kind of get started if that's something you're interested in. Are there any questions in general? Don't have anything else. If you have any questions about communicating with your students or any of the tools we've talked about, if you have any, go ahead and type them in the chat, or you can use the microphone to ask questions. Okay. So that's all I really have for this session. Feel free to hop out and finish up if you want to. If you have other questions about Blackboard or about online learning, feel free to ask those now too. We're not necessarily going to be on campus all this week, but we will be available to support you virtually. So if you send an email to Learning Technologies, I just typed in the chat, that's our email address. It's learningtech@cod.edu. So you can email us if you have any questions about using Blackboard or teaching remotely during this time. I did receive a question here about homework. What's your question? What question do you have about homework? Oh, I'll answer the other question first. I don't believe they can submit things through the Remind app. There is a Blackboard app for students, and they can submit things that way. The Remind app is really more of a communication tool. Okay. Oh, maybe you're asking, can they submit homework through? Yeah, they can't submit homework, but they can use the Blackboard app. Any other questions at this point? Okay, thank you. Again, if you have questions, email Learning Technologies or learningtech@cod.edu. We'll be happy to help you out. Thank you everybody for attending, and have a good day and good luck.